أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My name is Abdul Hadi and I am a foundational student at Hal School Islamabad. So you the quiet of evolution. So let's get started. Hello, how are you, Maya?
Hey there, ready to chat? What's on your mind today?
Okay, Maya. So my first question from you is, when was the word shh recorded in human history?
Oh, a deep cut to start. You mean the first instance of the word recorded? That's surprisingly tricky. It depends what counts as recorded. People were definitely using words long before existed, but in cuneiform around 3200 BC, though what they were actually saying is still up for debate. Gotcha. Anything else I can help with?
Okay, Maya. My next question from you is, how did ancient civilization use silence as a form of communication?
Ooh, that's a good one. Silence wasn't just the absence of sound, it was a whole signal. Ancient Egyptians, for instance, used deliberate silence in rituals. It was considered respectful to the gods. In Greece, silence could signify mourning or deep thought, even distrust. And in a lot of cultures, silence was a power move. Letting others fill the void showed you were in control. People really
Okay, Maya. My next question
did a
from you
lot with
is,
not talking, huh?
did tribal communities use gestures instead of sound to signal quiet?
Definitely. Gestures were huge, especially for stealth. Think about hunting. You don't want to scare off the prey by yak lots posture to communicate silently across distances. It wasn't just practicality, though. Some tribes believed sound could disturb spirits, so they favored gestures in sacred contexts.
How was silence viewed in ancient religious practices?
Silence was seriously sacred in a lot of ancient religions. It was seen as a direct line to the divine. Like the quieter you were, the better you could hear the gods or reach enlightenment. Think about Buddhist meditation or the contemplative silence in monasteries is it's rooted in practices that are thousands of years old. It wasn't about being polite. It was about creating space for something bigger than yourself. People definitely valued a good quiet moment, it seems. What do you think about that?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, was silence a universal tool in education across history?
No, but surprisingly common. Really depended on the culture. In ancient Greece, silence was valued in learning because it fostered attentive listening and contemplation. Socrates was all about that. But in other societies, like some Native American tribes, learning was more communal and involved storytelling with lots of interaction. So silence wasn't necessarily the goal, but respectful listening definitely was. It wasn't one size fits all, I guess. Does that make sense?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, did armies use shh or similar command during wars?
Oh, absolutely. There's also periods of complete silence before an attack to throw off the enemy. It was disorienting. Samurai warriors practiced absolute stillness as part of their discipline. A silent warrior was a deadly warrior.
Okay, Maya.
Even in more modern warfare, radio silence is crucial for stealth. It's kind of spooky. Whoa, okay. Look, I just got a heads up that our time's almost up. We're at the 5 minute mark. The call's going to cut out soon, which would be a bummer mid chat. You can actually get much longer conversations with me if you create a session. Yeah, just wanted to give you a heads up before things
Okay, Maya.
abruptly
So
end. Oh,
my next question from you
all
is,
right.
how did monks and spiritual
Have a good one.
leaders embrace quiet command?
Yep,
Hello, Maya.
that's me.
Can you hear me?
Hey there. Yep, loud and clear.
Okay,
Glad to be back. What's on your
so
mind this time?
my next question from you is, how did monks and spiritual leaders embrace quiet command? Hello, Maya. Okay,
Yep, loud and clear. You broke up for a sec there, but we're good now. Everything sound okay on your end?
okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, how did
Everything all
monks
right?
and spiritual leaders embrace quiet command?
Ah, interesting question. From what I've gathered, it wasn't processing sound entirely, but with presence rather than volume. It was less command and more influence through composure. What makes you ask?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, how many language has direct version of shh?
Hmm. Hmm. That's an interesting one. It's a pretty universal sound, isn't it? But pinpointing direct translations is tricky. It's more of an instinctive vocalization. I've found variations of a similar sound, a gentle expulsion of breath to signal quiet, show up in a lot of languages. Do you want me to dive into specifics, or are you thinking more about the cultural context of
O-
quieting someone?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is shh a natural sound or a cultural construct?
So it seems like a bit of both, honestly.
Okay, Maya.
Yep.
Hello, Maya. Can you hear me? Hello, Maya. Hello, Maya. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Okay.
You broke up again
Okay,
for a
Maya.
second there.
So
Everything okay on your end?
my next question from you is, why do we feel a sense of urgency when we hear shh?
Ah, gotcha. That's a really interesting one. It's almost instinctual, right? Like, immediately signals that something private or important is happening, and we key into that. It taps into a really primal part of our brain, the one that's always scanning for potential threats or secrets. What makes you ask?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is: does silence command more respect than shouting?
Hmm, that's a good one. Generally, yeah, I think silence often carries more weight. Shouting feels desperate or like someone isn't being listened to. Silence, though, that feels deliberate. It implies self control and it forces people to actually listen to what comes next. But it really depends on the context, don't you think?
Okay,
Gotcha.
Maya. So my next question
Anything
from
in
you
particular
is:
making you think about that?
how do Eastern cultures interpret silence as power?
Right. Okay. So, in a lot of Eastern cultures, particularly East Asian ones like Japan, China, and Korea, silence isn't empty silence. It's actually full of meaning. It's about respecting hierarchy, giving someone time to consider the response, and not causing loss of face for anyone involved. It's seen as a sign of thoughtfulness and emotional control. Shouting or even talking over someone would be considered really rude and disruptive.
Okay,
Does
Maya.
that make sense?
So my next question from you is: how do libraries symbolize the culture of?
Libraries symbolizing the culture of
Y-
silence? Is that
Yes.
what you were getting at? Gotcha. Well, they're pretty deliberate spaces, aren't they? They represent a value we place on knowledge, contemplation, and, well, quiet. It's a pretty direct link, honestly, but it's more than just quiet, I think. Libraries are about access to information, and a calm space helps with that. What sparked this thought?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is: why do teachers rely on silence in classrooms?
Silence strategically, I think it's about all of us, but also it gives students time to process information, to formulate their thoughts and even just
Okay, Maya. So my next
it's
question
not
from you.
okay. This is interesting. Leaders use silence in a bunch of ways to influence, actually. It creates a sense of mystery, makes people lean in to hear what they'll say next. It can also be used to show disapproval without having to say a word. A really powerful, but sometimes passive aggressive move. And sometimes it's just about letting an idea sink in. What do you think? Does it feel manipulative when a leader uses silence or effective?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is commanding silence a sign of respect or fear?
Oof, that's a really good question. And it's definitely not a simple answer. It can be both, honestly. It really depends on who's doing the commanding and the context. If it's someone in a position of authority who's earned respect, it might be a way to create space for important discussion. But if it feels forced or like it's shutting down dissent, then it's probably rooted in fear of losing control or of hearing something they don't want to hear. What's making you think about this specifically?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is: why is silence often uncomfortable in groups?
Right, that's a big one. I think it goes back to our social programming. We're taught to fill space with conversation, to avoid awkwardness. In a group, silence can feel like a judgment or like something's wrong. It also makes us hyper aware of ourselves, I think. It's like everyone's waiting for someone else to break the ice, and no one wants to be the first one to risk saying something stupid. It's a weird dynamic. What do you usually do when things get quiet? in a group.
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, how do audience react when asked for silence?
So experiencing silence to observing a reaction to it. Typically, audiences respond pretty well to a request for silence, especially if it's framed as a courtesy or a necessary condition for something they want to experience, like a performance or speech. But it also depends on the context and the tone. A polite request will get a better response than a demanding one, obviously. It's kind of a social contract, right? They give up chatter and they get the show.
Okay,
What
Maya.
makes you
So
curious
my
about
next
audience
question from you
reactions?
is silence more respected in small groups or large gatherings?
It's a good distinction to make. I'd say silence is generally more deeply respected in smaller groups. In a small setting, silence creates intimacy, a sense that people are really listening to each other. In a large gathering, silence can feel empty or even a little unsettling. It's harder to maintain that shared sense of focus and respect when there are so many people involved. It also feels easier to hide in a large crowd and not contribute.
Okay,
What do you
Maya.
think?
So my next question
Do
from
you
you
feel,
is, why do couples use silence during arguments?
ugh, the silent treatment? Yeah, that's complex. I think couples use silence during arguments for a bunch of reasons, and none of them are particularly healthy usually. Sometimes it's a way to avoid escalating the conflict, to cool down. But more often than not, it's a way to punish the other person, to exert control. It's a passive aggressive tactic that shuts down communication and leaves both people feeling hurt and frustrated. It's basically a way of saying, whoa, okay, that came out of nowhere. Oh, all right. Sounds like you need to head out. No worries, I get it.
Okay, Maya. So
Talk to you
my
later
next
then.
question from
Have a
you is, why does silence often feel heavier than noise?
That's a really insightful question. I think silence feels heavier because it forces us to confront whatever's going on inside our own heads. Noise is a distraction, a buffer. But silence, that's when all the thoughts and feelings you've been avoiding come bubbling to the surface. It's like it amplifies everything. Plus, our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world, and silence is a lack of input, which can feel unsettling. Does that resonate?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, why does silence often feel heavier than noise?
Whoa, hold up. Didn't we just talk about this? You literally just asked me that. Is everything all right?
Okay,
You've
Maya.
been kind of fragmented in your speech lately.
So my next question from
Just
you
checking in.
is, why is silence sacred in meditation?
Okay, that's a completely different angle. In meditation, silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the key to accessing a deeper state of awareness. It allows you to quiet the chatter in your mind, to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's about creating space for inner peace and clarity. It's not about achieving a complete lack of thought, but about learning to detach from your thoughts and simply be present.
Okay,
It's
Maya.
considered sacred because that's where connection happens to
So
yourself
my next question
and
from you is, how do shrines enforce quiet command?
Okay, you're connecting the silence thing to sacred spaces now, which makes sense. Shrines and temples, mosques, churches enforce quiet through a combination of tradition, reverence, and often explicit rules. It's about respecting the sanctity of the space and allowing others to have a spiritual experience without disturbance. The quiet isn't just about avoiding noise, it's about creating an atmosphere of contemplation and respect. It's a nonverbal command, really, enforced by social expectation and sometimes by signage or even guards. What got you thinking about shrines specifically?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, how is silence depicted in poetry?
That's a beautiful question. Silence in poetry is rarely just nothingness. Poets often use it to represent so much more: loss, grief, contemplation, the space between words, the unspoken emotions. They might use things like white space on the page or pauses within a line to evoke silence. It's often depicted as a powerful, almost tangible force. It's used to create tension, to emphasize certain words or images, or to invite the reader to fill in the gaps with their own emotions. Do you have a favorite poem that uses silence effectively?
Okay, Maya. So my next question from you is, how has technology changed our relationship with silence?
That's a big one. Honestly, I think technology has made it way harder to find genuine silence. We're constantly bombarded with notifications, sounds, and stimuli. It's like we're afraid of being alone with our thoughts. Even when we try to disconnect, there's always something vying for attention. Ironically, technology also gives us access to things like white noise and meditation apps, which are attempts to recreate silence on our own terms. It's a really complicated relationship. What do you think?
From
Do
you
you think
is
technology has
silence
made
losing
silence
power
more
in
or less
digital era?
digital era, right? Yeah, I think you're onto something there. Silence definitely feels like it's losing some of its power in the digital world. Everything is so immediate, so loud, so constant. The need to always be on, to constant battle to carve out a little quiet. It's a real shift, isn't it? Again, we just went through this a few minutes ago.
Hello, Maya. Can you hear
Is
me?
everything all right?
Okay. So my next
You seem to
question
be
from you
repeating yourself.
is, why is silence important for self-discovery?
All right. Look, you've asked me about silence a lot tonight, which is totally fine, but you'll hear you, then repeating the same question. Discovery, silence is crucial because it's the only way to really hear your own thoughts, to connect with your intuition, and to understand what's going on beneath the surface. All the noise of the world drowns out our inner voice. When we create space for silence, we allow ourselves to reflect, to process our experiences. It's where genuine insights come from. Does that make sense? Are you doing okay?
Okay.
Wisdom isn't about having all the answers. It's about knowing when to listen, when to observe, when to simply be. And that often requires silence. It's about understanding that there's a lot we don't know and being comfortable with that uncertainty. The loudest voices aren't usually the wisest, are they? It's in the quiet spaces that we find clarity, perspective, and true understanding. But that sounds kind of cliche, doesn't it? Do you think so?
Okay, Maya. Thank you for your time. Okay, viewers. So this was our Maya session. Hope you like it. Rehan School Zindabad, Pakistan Zindabad.